All right. Hi. Wanted to take a minute to explain the editorial process, also to share some of the links that to talk about some of the links that I'll be sharing with you. For those of you who have agreed to help with the journal as a peer reviewer, but maybe want to understand where you fit into the editorial process a little bit more. First of all, let me thank you so much for your time. We could not do this publication without your help. And OCTELA is a publication through the Ohio Councils of Teachers of English Language Arts, and we think that it is really important that we preserve this tool for us to bring voice to Ohio's teachers, especially those in the English language arts. All right, so a little bit about where, to begin. One of the things I would do if you're not familiar with our journal, if you haven't had an issue of our journal before in front of you, would be to start at our website. And you can see there is a tab here for individual submissions. And within those tabs, you can get a sense of our journal. And you can look to see, I think you'll find that our journal is very practitioner oriented. We do encourage research studies, particularly those studies that have strong implications in the classroom, because we believe that it is our sort of role to help to bridge that divide between theory and practice so that we can look at theory through the lens of how can we improve instruction and practices and instructional practices. So this is something that you might want to spend some time on. As the reviewer, one other thing you want to be aware of is what call for submissions you're going to be reviewing under, because many, but not all of our submissions are sort of addressed to this prompt. So understanding the prompt and understanding whether or not you have something that can fit within that prompt is the first step. So spend some time. I will include this in the directions and emails, but spend some time with the call for submissions. But do understand that there's room for, with every issue, there are room for other types of manuscripts. So in addition to the call for submissions, there's feature articles, and there are different departments. We have a teaching matters department, a conversations department, conference room table, which is going to be where a lot of your research study is going to be, ability for teachers to write creatively, some reviews. So if you take a moment to look at these so that you're familiar with the call and sort of the prompts and the parameters with which these submissions are supposed to fit, that would be wonderful. Then in the directions, you'll get directions from me. They look something like this, and linked into the directions, you're going to find a peer reviewer form. I want you to understand that the peer review process, let me put this up here, you fit into a larger process. And so some people spend some time looking at sort of editing issues, and we're not there yet. We're really kind of at this holistic point in the review process. The author has submitted their article to me. I just decide whether or not it's something that I should send out for review, a very quick review. And then this is your role. You are going to look at the review process. Okay, you're going to look at that article, and you're going to tell me whether or not it needs to be revised, and to what extent. You're going to offer me some feedback that I can use with the author, or should it be rejected? And you could also tell me that it can be accepted, but that doesn't mean that you need to catch all of the editing areas, because if you'll notice, this is all the submission process. Okay, once we get into where an article has been accepted, whether it's been accepted or accepted with revisions or accepted with major revisions, no matter how no matter how, the peer reviewers, and there are going to be 2 to 3 of you that are going to look at any one article, so you're not the only, you don't have to feel that pressure of being the only one. No matter what that outcome comes out, then what happens is I move it into the production phase, which means that's the point where we're going to start to look at some of the wordsmithing, grammar issues, grammar concerns, style concerns, things like that. And so what I want you to consider is that what you're looking at is really on the draft phase, and it's always going to be on the draft phase during the review process. Certainly you can make note of things like if the grammar and the spelling is distracting to the, and that is something that you can note in your Google form that you'll get as a peer reviewer. I'm going to submit for you, this is from Wiley, but it's a really good overview of the peer reviewer and how to conduct a peer review. Really, what I suggest is when you are given when you are given an article, to just spend some time reading it first. Just read it. Sometimes you'll be shared some supplementary items like tables and graphs and things like that. Spend some time just reading it the first time. And then what I want you to do is pick up the call, look at the different departments, and then go back. I think it's really important to just get that first intake. If that first intake was, wow, this is a really good piece, but I don't know how it fits into the journal, that's important for us to know, because there could be some really good ways that we can work with the writer to make it fit for the publication, right? So don't just feel like you have to reject it just because you can't figure out how it fits into the publication. You can certainly, at the end, you could get to accept, or you could say reject, but you can give me comments that could guide me so that I could then offer the author an opportunity to rework it and resubmit it for the next issue of the publication. But with each of these, you'll see there's a Likert rating scale and a place for comments. And the place for comments are very, very important, because when I send the decision to the writer, whether it's accept, reject, or accept with revision, when I send that to the writer, the comments help to both justify the decision that I share with them, also to guide any revision. And I find it really important, even in something that we're going to reject for our publication, I find it very important that I offer them actionable feedback, because if these writers want to, if the authors want to try to get it published in another publication, I feel like if I could give them something to do to improve it, to increase their chances of getting it published elsewhere, that would be really important. So, all right. So yes, so if you could please use this form to guide your thinking, but really consider, I have comments here that I use myself, and sometimes I cut and paste those comments. And then in the end, there is provide comments for the author. These I'm going to lift word for word. The comments that you leave in the rest of the form, I'm going to integrate those and look for trends among the reviewers, and I'm going to integrate those into my reviewer feedback for the author. Sometimes though, you write it so well, I go ahead and I give them exactly word for word what you wrote in that. So those additional comments, you can feel free to write those as if I'm reading them, right? So if you are worried about sounding too harsh with the writer, don't worry about that, because I'll be that intermediary and you don't have to worry about it in that additional comments. I'll make sure that I write it in a way that is productive criticism, even if we're rejecting it. But in here, this provide comments for the authors, that's going to go to the authors. And what's really often very useful is if you take some of the themes and some of the ideas that you've been putting in the additional comments, and you put those into that section in a way that maybe can help to direct the writer for improving the piece, whether or not we're going to reject the piece or accept the piece. So that is something else that I wanted to make sure that you understood, is that those additional comments go to me, but down here, provide comments for the authors, I literally will lift these out of these forms and send them to the writers so that they can see what was shared with them. I will, once a decision has been reached, I will send you a copy of the decision so that you can see, how you fit in. It's always interesting to see whether or not the other 2 or 3 reviewers agreed with you, so you can see the other reviewers' comments and feedback. And importantly, I will also tap you if we ask the writer to do a major revision. I prefer to go back to the original reviewer. So I will also see if you're able to help if we have a work that we're going to work on multiple drafts of that manuscript. As the initial reader, you're going to be asked first if you would be willing to do the additional reads. I understand that for some of you that might not be doable, but I prefer, if I can, for it to be the original reviewer. So I will send you a link in the email to this, as well as share out this video. But please know that we do appreciate everything you do. And we could not have this journal without the help of so many volunteers like yourself. Thank you and have a good day.